Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the zoning hearing officer meeting of June the 5th, 2025. We're convening here at 455 County Center, room 101 in Redwood City, and also via Zoom. And my name is Joe LeClaire. I'm the zoning hearing officer for San Mateo County. And let's all begin by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So the first item on our agenda today is public comment for items that are not on our agenda. So if anyone here in the room or on the Zoom would like to provide public comment on something that is not on our agenda today, this is your opportunity. So would either of you have any comments and or is there anyone on the Zoom? If so, please raise your hand and Ted can walk you through the process.
We don't have anyone in person, and also we have no one in via Zoom.
Okay, thanks very much. So we'll move on to our next item, which is our only item on our regular agenda today. And Ted, can you please read that into the record?
Okay, planner Mike Schaller, owner John Maloney Trust, applicant Tamara Environmental Consulting, file number PLN 2025-00026, location 301 Redwood Avenue, Utana Falls, APN number 089-042-060.
I think she just advances it for you.
Oh, okay. Just for the record, quick correction, John Maloney Trust is also the
Okay.
Mara Consulting, though, is helping.
They're the applicant's representative.
Exactly, yes. So good morning. The project before you today is a request for a coastal development permit and a grading permit to permit restoration and revegetation of the banks of Utano Creek at 301 Redwood Avenue in the unincorporated Utano Falls area of San Mateo. Sorry.
Oh,
I don't know. Yes, please. No, I'm sorry.
forward.
Yes, thank you. There we go. This slide just simply gives an approximation of the project location. Sorry, I don't have a better one, but if you were to do an aerial shot, it's all you see is trees. So it's not
I know,
all that
been
helpful.
there.
But you get it. The residence at 301 Redwood Avenue was originally constructed in the early 1900s. The current owner's family purchased the property in 1962. Since that time, ongoing channel incision has been a concern within the Utano Creek watershed in general, and in particular at the project location. These two photos show the subject residence at 301 Redwood. You can see the near vertical condition of the stream bank and the proximity of the edge of bank to the house foundation. Next one, please. That gives you a bit closer view of the foundations for the deck are pretty much right on the edge. Next, please. To prevent future high water events from causing the house to fall into the creek, the applicant is proposing to stabilize the southern bank of the creek by cutting back the near vertical bank to create a keyway for placement of filter fabric and rock slope protection. The bottom of the rock slope protection will consist of 24-inch diameter boulders, which will be keyed in at a depth of approximately 6 feet below the existing stream channel grade. The upper reaches of the reconstructed slope will be filled with smaller boulders on average diameter of approximately 18 inches. Riparian tree species will be planted within the rock slope protection, and 3 root wad structures will be incorporated into the toe of the slope. On the opposite bank, in the area that's encircled by the purple there, A portion of the vegetated sediment deposit that comprises the other bank of the creek will be excavated and reshaped to a gentler and more stable 2-to-1 slope. This will serve to increase the width of the stream channel that carries flow, expanding the area of floodplain on that side of the creek and increasing the frequency with which this land is inundated by stream flows. To complete the proposed in-channel work, a 230-foot linear diversion and dewatering system will be implemented in accordance with the watering plan required in coordination with the San Francisco Regional Water Quality Control Board, the Army Corps of Engineers, and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. Upon completion of grading activities, all areas will be replanted with native riparian species, including willows, dogwood, maples, and thimbleberry. Next, please. And next. Staff recommends the adoption of a categorical exception from CEQA under section 15333 of the CEQA guidelines, which pertains to small habitat restoration projects. Both the California Department of Fish and Wildlife and the Regional Water Quality Control Board have sent in emails supporting the use of this categorical exception for this project. Next. Thanks. As discussed in your staff report, staff believes the project as conditioned complies with the policies contained in the county LCP, particularly with regards to the implementation of measures to protect sensitive habitat and species and measures species and meeting performance standards in riparian habitat. Next. One more. Thanks. In closing, staff is recommending approval of the requested coastal development permit and grading permit, county file number PLN 2025-00026, by adopting the required findings and conditions of approval contained in the attachment staff report. That concludes my formal presentation. There were 2 minor edits to conditions of approval that were contained in attachment A. That was pointed out that there was lack of specificity on condition of approval number 5, which is general wildlife measures, 5B, which requires a qualified biologist to do a survey prior to construction. At the end of that condition of approval, it states currently the qualified biologist will record all wildlife species encountered during the survey and submit the record of results within 7 days of survey completion. What's lacking is who those results get submitted to. So staff is recommending we add just language that the results be submitted to the County of San Mateo and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. The other minor edit to the conditions of approval is regarding condition number 7, which pertains to both the California giant salamander and the Santa Cruz black salamander. Specifically 7F, which speaks to captured salamanders will be held in cool, shaded, aerated water in a container with a lid. We just wanted to emphasize or add that the water within this container shall only be drawn from Butte Creek and not from tap water, which could possibly contain chlorine or other substances that are designed to make the water safe for humans to drink, but perhaps are not good for salamanders. We did receive 2 emails regarding this project yesterday afternoon. The first one is from Winifred Mitchell Baker. I believe you've seen those emails. I just briefly wanted to respond to one of the points made in this first email. The question was asked: legal report requesting 2 things be added to the proposal before it is approved. Legal recourse for the property owners of 316 Madrone should this project negatively affect our properties set out in the proposal. Staff consulted with county counsel regarding this, and county counsel did confirm that the county is held harmless in regards to whenever we issue an approval on a project. The recourse, if two property owners feel that there's been the actions of one property owner has negatively impacted the other property owner, their recourse is to seek remedy through a civil lawsuit. That is the legal recourse. We don't have there is no regulatory authority to impose some kind of a potential impact kind of recourse method. The second email we received was from Casey Dunn. And the first item in this particular email addresses mostly the same thing about they would like the project to include liability insurance. Again, consulting with county council, it was confirmed that the county does not have the regulatory authority to impose such a condition upon any project. That again, this becomes a private civil matter between private property owners, or in this instance, perhaps the mutual water company and the applicant, if it's believed that the actions of the applicant have negatively impacted the infrastructure of the mutual water company. And that is the conclusion of my comments and presentation. Is there anything are there any questions I can answer till we have this time?
Thanks. The only other question, and I think it was a point that was raised by both commenters, had to do with downstream erosion impacts of the project.
Yes.
And whether, there's a hydrologic design that's robust enough to prevent that from happening.
So as part of the application submittals, a hydrological study was submitted by the applicant and was reviewed by our building department, our building official, who is also our floodplain administrator for the county's FEMA program. And our floodplain administrator concurred with the results of the study. We didn't see anything in it that he thought was inconsistent or didn't make any sense. I know the applicant is here and could speak to that as well if you'd like more detail.
Great, thanks. Maybe just for the rest of the meeting, we could have that site plan that shows the riprap and the it was the first site plan that we showed. Is the second one.
That's the dewatering plan. There we go.
Yeah, the dewatering's a little cluttered. Existing. Oh, that's a tree. I was like, what is that?
So there is one tree on the opposite bank that will
Right.
be removed in order to lay that slope back so it's more stable to one slope.
Yeah, no, I meant the existing fallen 16-inch diameter alder that just downstream on the neighboring property is.
Oh, yes.
Trying to figure out what I thought, is that a retaining wall or what? And what is the big box? It says existing so
Yes.
is that the rough woody debris that the neighbors have placed?
So this is an existing fallen tree, and then this is an alder, and this is an existing fallen 60-inch diameter redwood tree that are on the opposite bank. I don't know if that was placed there specifically by that property owner or.
They mentioned, in some of the emails that we got, they did mention that they had installed some rough woody debris downstream of this project site. So I was just trying to get a grip on what, if anything, the site plan told us about downstream conditions. So it's interesting that in a way, by laying this back, you sort of create similar conditions to what's downstream of bigger flood, basically the floodplain, except for this steep bit here, it gets bigger in two locations. So anyway, it's instructive. Thank you. Thanks for that one. And so what I'd like to do now is open the public hearing and hear from anyone on the Zoom. We have the applicant here in the room and they'll be speaking in a minute, but I want to give folks on the Zoom a chance if anyone has comments they'd like to share on this project. Please raise your hand.
We don't have anyone wishing to speak at the moment via Zoom and in person. Oh, okay. They just raised.
So go ahead.
We have Casey. None. Casey?
Yes, hello. I just wanted to make it clear in our common notes that this project proposal is very impressive and looks very legit. The addition of the root ball system is something I've talked about with the RCD for in different areas of this creek in my role on the water company there. And to the ZHO officer, the creek does get giant trees falling into it because we have redwoods all over. And the one that you asked about down between Jerry and our property, it might be on our property, has been there for quite a while. And it serves as a decelerator. In my notes, that I sent, the root ball that we've been working with is further downstream a bit. It would be just past the end of the fallen alder. And the ecology down there is also that the alders grow almost like weeds and then they fall into the stream. And, you know, it's just part of the cycle down there. But I wanted to make it clear, we're generally in support. We just have concerns as we outlined in our mails, which were written at opposite ends of the county at the same time while we were in different meetings. So that's my comment. And if there's you'd like any clarification from me, I'd be happy to provide it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, and I just want to note too that in addition to the county's review of this proposal, the resource agencies, in particular California Department of Fish and Wildlife, who issues stream alteration permits, is taking a careful look at the hydrologic design, the biologic design, the plant material, and so on that will be a part of this, as well as protection of threatened and endangered species. So that, you know, and there's a lot of eyes on the design of this project and you know whether it will work. So I think that and our floodplain manager, as Mike outlined, has taken a careful look at the hydrologic design from an erosional perspective and believes that the design is such that it won't create these downstream effects that folks are concerned about. However, I think it's sometimes adaptive management of these kinds of projects is needed, where downstream interventions may be needed to, you know, add additional woody debris or something like that in the event that something crops up that we didn't foresee. And we'll hear from the applicants about that in a minute. So is there anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Dunn, for your comments. Is it?
We don't have anyone.
We don't have anyone else. Okay, very good. Well, I'm going to close the public hearing, and I'm going to ask the applicant to identify themselves and provide some additional background on the project.
My name is John Maloney and property owner of 301 Redwood. I want to thank you for allowing me a few minutes to discuss our habitat and stream bank restoration project. A lot of what you so eloquently addressed is kind of highlighted in some of my comments, but I want to focus a little bit more on a little bit of the history and how we got to where we are and what's been going on there, and realization of that such that it leads to the design of the project. First of all, it's important to note that we hired both a project consultant and whose expertise is environmental Consulting. And you'll meet her shortly. Her name is Kelly Camara. And she has been working diligently with the agencies that have helped us put this plan together. And just as important, in fact, though, is that we hired Matt Weld. His company is called Waterways. Matt's done a lot of work up in this area for the counties of San Mateo, but also some individual homeowners. Is very familiar with that, with Buteau Creek, and worked very closely with RCD. We met him through Joe Essel, who is with RCD in San Mateo. We had him come out and talk to us about our problem, the problem that exists where we were getting significant erosion of the bank and watching the creek making different, taking different directions depending on the winter, and asked him how we could do this property. It was identified in a meeting that I was at, and most everyone at Buteau attended, where he was cautioning everyone to be careful on what Mike's called management, downstream stream management, and just throwing debris in the creek was certainly a contribution to what was going on, and so we wanted to make sure we did this correctly, and determined that when we began to see what we could do about protecting our property and eliminating the amount of sediment that was going downstream and eventually ending up in Pescadero, how could we make sure that we did it right? And so we hired Matt Weld. We continue to associate and keep in contact with RCD. RCD recommended Kelly to be a consultant for us, and that's where we are. So just by a little bit of history, our residence, as was pointed out, was built in the early 1900s, and our family bought the property in the early 60s, and since that time, 4 generations have enjoyed the Buteau Canyon summer home, and it has become, we all have an emotional attachment to Buteau Canyon. Over the years, there's been a deepening of the Buteau Creek channel adjacent to our property, which has caused a significant erosion of the stream bank, sending destructive amounts of sediment downstream. Due to the unengineered rock being dumped, wood being removed, and placement of broken concrete into the creek over the years has created a lot of concern within the Buteau Canyon watershed itself. While Buteau Canyon provides suitable migratory and spawning and rearing habitat for steelhead, coho, salmon, and other wildlife species, the input of this sediment from the erosion of the bank has limited, the result limited habitat suitability and species recovery of the salmon. The purpose of our project then is to improve the habitat for our native fish, plants, and wildlife through the addition of woody debris and an extensive vegetation plan. Vegetation plan and the woody debris is shown in the plan. There are 5 logs and a series of root balls that are going to help provide that fish habitat. We also hope to improve the long-term environmental health of the creek in general, both downstream and at our property, reduce and prevent additional bank erosion, which will help that, and limit downstream impacts of erosion to protect spawning habitat, public infrastructure, water quality, and the large redwood adjacent trees that are adjacent to the creek, erosion, some of which are first growth redwoods, which if not addressed will continue to deposit significant amounts of sediment into Butno Creek that will eventually bury important breeding habitat for the steelhead trout. Just a comment. This project has been 4 years in the making, and we've done a lot of research. Kelly's going to actually focus a little bit on the agencies that are involved, but I should make a comment, tell you that both the geoengineer as well as Matt Weld, who is a civic technical engineer that specializes in ecological restoration design, has been the lead man on the project, and again, well recognized as an expert and has done a significant amount of work. And I just wanted to, again, point that out. So we've done this the right way. We've decided not to continue what was going on that has possibly created some of the issues that we have in the creek, and so we're proud that we've had we've spent the time to do this correctly. The plan itself simply places planted rock and large wood with use of anchored root balls, and that was done again by our specialists in recreational design. This will create a fish-friendly environment for steelhead and coho salmon and other creek wildlife habitat. Our stream bank will prevent continued bank erosion, adding log structures intended to improve velocity, refuge for juvenile salmon, and protect and promote gravel sorting and rearing habitat. It will also improve the quality of the water by eliminating sediment and turbidity into the Butno Creek. We look forward to San Mateo County Planning and Building Department approving our plan. We hope to begin work on our project in late summer and early fall. And thank you very much for your time to allow us.
Great, thanks, Mr. Maloney. I just had one question for you, and it had to do with the
Yes, sir.
historic forces driving erosion in the creek. You mentioned it briefly in your comments.
Yes.
What were those?
Well, over the years, and we've been there for quite some time. I actually been there since 1973. But over the years, and this was before I think a lot of things have been learned about ecology and that kind of thing. The way that the homeowners historically took care of the creek was they would get into the creek after the winter, clear the creek usually of debris that fell, natural trees and other things that fell, logs and other things that were relocated. They would get down in there and remove those things. And then when the creek started to erode the bank because of some of that activity, the answer was that sometimes the same homeowners, but others would dump rock willy-nilly into the creek around their bank. They wouldn't use the kind of they wouldn't be doing the kind of detail that we're using with our experts. Certainly not rocks and root balls, and certainly not revegetation, which is a big part of this plan, where we're going to be planting and irrigating. In fact, the irrigation that's going to go as on the project. So that's the kind of thing that's been going on.
Great, thanks for your response. Ms. Camara, did you want to add anything to the presentation?
So I'm Kelly Camara Environmental Consulting. I started Camara Environmental Consulting in 2007 because I wanted to work with resource conservation districts and landowners who were voluntarily implementing projects to restore our natural resources. I've worked really closely over the last 20 years with Matt Weld from Waterways and Adrian Garner, who's our geotechnical engineer on the project. And through conversations with the engineers, the landowner, and the permitting agencies, we've developed a alternative analysis that evaluated design alternatives and came up with the most ecologically friendly project that we could, given site constraints. You just asked, and John just addressed, the incision that's been occurring within Butte Creek over time due to ongoing and past practices within the stream. Engineered rock is not always our first choice, but given the site constraints, that is the best alternative that we have, and the vegetation will be the key component to provide a more natural aesthetic and the long-term stability of the site over time. Placed rock is not the same as dumping rock off the side of a bank or using broken bits of concrete that create flat surfaces that then bounce and change water flows. So the design alternative that we've come up with and that Mike presented today has been approved by all our other state and federal agencies. Not only has it been approved by those agencies, but they are using restoration programmatic permits that were recently approved by the state called Cutting the Green Tape that are to be used for voluntary, ecologically friendly green projects that restore our natural resources, and statewide programmatics by our federal agencies, the Army Corps of Engineers, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and National Marine Fisheries Service. So not only do they recognize that this is the best alternative, they've approved an alternative, and we are using our green permits to make this project happen. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So that, I don't have any more questions at this time. I did want to, and I've closed the public hearing. So I wanted to ask Mr. Maloney whether you have read the staff report and you agree with the findings and conditions of approval as modified by Mr. Schaller in his presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. I did have I guess I do have one question. It bears on this idea of adaptive management. So, I mean, as you described the history of how the creek's been managed, that was a form of adaptive management that didn't work out very well, where folks were randomly, saying, "Oh, I see this thing is going to cause you. I think this thing is going to cause erosion on my property, so I want to get it out of there so it doesn't do that." And it's always difficult when you have a great, project design like this that is sort of set in a context that is where there's not other interventions taking place, if you will, to support and if you will, protect this design. And I don't know if there's anybody who's taking a comprehensive look at Butte Creek. Somebody is, you are.
The Resource Conservation District is. It is part of their long-term strategic plan and mission as an agency to address the historic and ongoing practices within the watershed. Unfortunately, their timing and their ability to get funding did not line up with Mr. Maloney's desire to protect his home and restore his.
Yeah, and so I think that given that this is an isolated project in the middle of the watershed that's got some issues, and you may need to adaptively manage this going forward. There may be, and I don't know if there are standard conditions in the green permits that you referenced that speak to that.
There's a requirement for 5 years of monitoring for both through the civil engineer and also the restoration revegetation plan. And with any project, as you're saying, you may need to adaptively manage, right? Everything doesn't always go according to plan. And so we do have plans in our restoration plan and in conversation with our engineers in terms of what might need to occur in certain situations.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Leclerc, if I can just add one quick thing. I think it's very important that when this project is done, that the rest of our community, there's 90 homes in the community and not that many homeowners, but, and not all on the creek, but numbers of them on the creek. We're hoping that this will really, exist and act as a kind of a marker for how to do this right on the creek. And so people will be encouraged, certainly by myself and others and members of our community to do this right. That the way of the past was, it to them made sense. If if I clear the road, if I clear the creek, it's, the water's gonna go through and won't erode the bank. Well, of course, that isn't the case. And so now I think there's an education, and we hope that our project will act as an example of how to do it properly. And that's one of the reasons why I took it upon myself without any kind of financial support. This all is self-funded because I believe that this is the best thing we could possibly do in the community.
Great, thanks. Well, pursuant to all of that, I'm going to approve this project pursuant to the findings and subject to the conditions of approval as modified in attachment A. So this is PLN case 2025-00026. And if anyone wishes to appeal this approval, they may do so by submitting an appeal application to the Planning and Building Department by June 20th, 5 p.m., accompanied by a appeal fee of $1,962. And since that's the only item on our agenda today, we'll adjourn the meeting. And thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.